August has been a continuation of the expansions that we were already feeling in July. And that means moving into the higher timeline, moving into new expanded states of ourselves, of how we are showing up. So we're going to talk more about that. And of course, we also had the great tech outage, so talk about expansions. It has also brought with it some overwhelm. So lots to say about expansion so far for this month. I'm also going to tell you about the Metatron channelings from July and the focus on the new expression of the self and what that means for you, and share a message from an Andromedan for the month of August and a story of mine that ties into that message, also from the Great Tech Outage. I'm Paige, energy healer and channel, and this is your August energy update. Before I get started, I would like to thank everyone who's been watching these and adding your comments. I do appreciate hearing from you. Please do post your comments below, whether it resonates or not. Either way, anything that you found interesting, I'd love to hear that. And please do like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. I really do appreciate it. In the July update, I talked quite extensively about expansion and contraction and how that's been the hallmark of this year. So if you've missed that, definitely do go back and watch that. I can't really go into all of that detail again, but I will say that at that time, we were moving into an expanded state. One thing that I probably should have made more clear in that update was that even though we can feel a lot more pressure and tension in times of contraction, the expansion doesn't mean that all of those things go away, right? All of the things that might be causing that pressure, we might be feeling in our lives, right? What's going on for us, wherever that is in your life, whatever area of life, those things are still around, obviously, when we move into the expanded state. And what can actually happen is a couple of things. They can feel bigger, even though the tension might feel less or the pressure might feel less. They can feel sometimes like they're ballooning out. You can feel overwhelm of a different type in the expanded state, more of even an existential type of overwhelm, something you can't quite grasp because everything feels very big. That can happen. Also, something that came up is that when we move into the expanded state and we're coming out of the contracted phase, that can bring up emotion. So when we're in a contracted state, it's like we kind of batten down the hatches, pressure's on, things go underground. You might suppress emotions that are stirring, whereas when we move into the expanded state, that does bring a little bit of ease, and that can allow for more flow, more openings, and things to come to the surface. And on that note, lots of things have been coming to the surface for people as part of stepping onto the new timeline, stepping into this newer version of ourselves. So that's what's really been coming up that I've been noticing with clients. I do work as an energy healing practitioner, so I'm always talking to my clients to see what's going on with them, kind of gauging where we are generally collectively and what trends are happening. And right now, I would say that what's been standing out, and this is also a continuation from July, is people really making that shift into the new version of themselves. We haven't landed yet. So again, this is something that I've mentioned before. I think that we're going to settle into our new places in September. We have the eclipses coming up, but we've been in process. And I've mentioned that we've been in process. It's felt like this higher process that's been sort of swirling since about May. That is starting to settle. And as it's settling, we're shifting. We're moving more with more stability, let's say, in a more solid way into where we're going. But again, we're still not totally there. And what's happening for some people is sort of the residual stuff is getting pushed to the surface, things that really don't need to go into that new state. So if that's coming up for you, don't be frustrated. Take advantage of the opportunity to work through those things, because you don't want to take them into the new state. You want to make this your vision for your best life, right? You want to, as you're moving into the new state, consciously and with intention, release all of the things that you don't want to take with you. And this is the time to do that. So that's emphasized in the Metatron frequencies that we're going to talk about. It's been emphasized in all of the messages that have been coming through. So this really is the time. So take advantage of it. We had a great example of an expanded experience with the huge tech outage that happened at the end of July, starting July 19th, that people are probably still feeling the repercussions of around the world. So I have a great story that I want to share with you about that ties into the quote from the Andromedan. So we'll get there. But first, let's talk about the Metatron channelings from the month of July. This is the free channeling that I do on the Insight Timer every month, and everyone is welcome to join that. There's a link in the description below this video, and you can just follow that link and RSVP for the next one that's coming up. These are powerful meditations, lots of frequency coming in, so if you haven't tried it, I definitely do recommend that you give it a try. You can listen to the past ones here on my channel. You get about 80% of the frequency when you're listening to one that's recorded, so it is still there. I know that there are ads and that's irritating. I can't take them out. I can't do anything about them. If I could, I would, but do trust that you're still getting that frequency. So in each of these meditations, 3 separate frequencies come in. So I'm going to tell you about the month of July and what those frequencies were about. So the theme for the month of July was the expression of the higher aspects of the self emerging within the newly formed patterning of the light system. And that was a blend of frequencies that started with trusting your heart's infinite forms of expression and returning to who you are. A frequency that helps propel us forward, that keeps us in forward momentum, and one about the reforming of light patterns. The reforming of light patterns is all about moving into a new state. So if you think of yourself as a collection of light patterns, you are a light body. Your energy system is a light body, and lots of light patterns sit within that light body, and they determine your physical health, your emotional health, your mental states, your behaviors in general, how you perceive, how you receive, how you move through life. So as those patterns are reformed, you step into a new place, you show up differently in life, and you have a different experience of life. So that constant reforming is also a part of this expansion and contraction, which we talked about before as being the essential movement of energy. The process of moving upwards is expansion and contraction. So this expansion of the higher aspects of the self emerging within newly formed light patterning within your light system is where we are right now, which is huge. I mean, that means that we're able to access higher parts of ourselves and make those part of our everyday. So there isn't so much of that separation. You should be not, hopefully, what we're moving towards is moving away from that feeling of, I need to talk to my higher self and find out what my higher self says about this. It should all be integrated as we come into these higher states, higher timelines. A higher timeline, and I mentioned this before, is a higher frequency pathway. It's like you're jumping onto a pathway that expresses at a higher frequency. That means that if you're going to get onto that pathway, you have to be in alignment with it first. You have to be able to carry higher frequency. You have to be able to express from a higher state. Being able to express from a higher state is absolutely connected to being able to express those higher aspects of yourself. And again, I do want to emphasize that over and over and over, Metatron and other guides have said how important it is for us to be expressing from our heart. And that is expressing from the true self. The heart is the portal for the soul's expression. That means expressing who you are at your core. Really, really important. All right, let's talk about the message for this month. Every month I bring in a message from whoever is around to offer the message. It's usually a galactic, sometimes an archangel, sometimes Metatron. This month it was an Andromedan. So I'm going to read you the message, and then I'm going to tell you the story that immediately came up for me when I was reading this message through. In this month of August, you will find yourselves looking for new and creative ways to express yourselves. You will find that you are inspired to new creations, perhaps new ways of living, of solving problems that have been weighing you down. You will see each other as counterparts in the solutions that you create and work together as you build. You are learning the commonality of your humanity in its emerging form. You are learning to see each other as partners, not adversaries. I love this. I think it's very inspiring. I think this is exactly where we are moving and shifting individually, which means, of course, that collectively we are moving and shifting as well. So it's nice to get that reflected back in the message from this month. If you look back in the other energy updates, you'll find that there's a message each month, and each one is unique and interesting and follows this path that we've been on. So what really came up for me when I read this was my experience in the tech outage. I, like many other people, was in the midst of it, immersed completely. I was at the airport on July 21st trying to cross the country. I was with my son, and of course, no one was going anywhere. It was total chaos, and the security lines were like nothing you've ever seen. They reached literally to the front doors of the airport, and lines at every booth that was functioning, because most were not. And in this kind of situation, you expect people to just be going crazy, right? Like we've all seen this when a flight gets canceled and all the people on the flight are frustrated and angry, and people are shouting at the employees and trying to get moved to a different place and this and that. There's a lot of just intensity and unpleasantness that happens in those situations. And what was so interesting about this experience that really struck me was that I didn't see any of that. I was in the airport for a really, really long time, and I didn't see one person shouting, getting upset. Every single person there was in the same situation. The employees couldn't fix anything. They were doing their hardest to try and accommodate everybody who was there. Everyone moved into this state that I couldn't believe. It was like this calm and acceptance of where we are. We don't like it, but we have to accept it. And people were helping each other out. People were generous. People were moving out of the way when they'd been waiting in line for an hour to let somebody else go ahead of them because that person needed to catch their flight. That kind of thing was happening constantly. And also, you know, everywhere you went in the airport, there was this feeling of, we don't know what's going on, but we're all in it. What can we do together to help each other out? I mean, everywhere you went, it was amazing. Every shop, every restaurant. So that was really incredible. And for me, you know, it was a frustrating situation, but in the end, I didn't take that away. You know, I could have walked away from that just being so frustrated. I ended up not making it to my destination. I only made it halfway. I had to rent a car at 1 in the morning and drive 16 hours to get to my destination, which was exhausting. But I did see some beautiful scenery along the way. And in the end, the takeaway was not how awful this was and being angry about the situation. There was a lot of frustration along the way, but the takeaway was, wow, look what we did together. Look how people pulled together. And look how this new humanity is emerging within us. It's almost like there was a higher understanding. I was telling people it was like there was something in the air that felt different. So I was very inspired by that. And when I got this message from the Andromedan, I thought, wow, it really speaks to exactly what I was seeing in the airport. So I hope that that gives you some inspiration as we move into this fall, and hopefully things will begin to settle next month with those eclipses. It'll be interesting to see where we are then. Once again, please do like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. And thank you so much for watching and for listening all the way to the end. And I hope that you have a wonderful rest of this month, and I'll see you next time.